Welcome back to the episode of the Baseball Insiders. I am Robert Murray. As you can see, that is not Adam Weindrup with us. This is Jon Heyman, the insider for MLB Network and the New York Post. Appreciate John for joining us today. John, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Robert?
I'm great. I'm even better now that you're here with me. I got to ask. I know you're one of the busiest people in baseball. I know the offseason is always pretty crazy for you. Just jumped right into spring training. Did you actually have any time to relax this offseason?
Oh, I think so. Here and there, a little bit. I don't think you have that much time either. So I think we're in the same boat. Yeah, it's basically working late and getting up early.
No, exactly. I ended up falling asleep last night, and all of a sudden I woke up to a couple of texts about Mike Clevenger going to the White Sox. So that was good. At least I woke up. I woke up from my slumber, so that's always good. But what camps have you all hit this spring so far?
Well, the New York Post, pretty provincial. I've hit the Mets and the Yankees so far, but I'm going out to Arizona, so I will see you, and I will see every team in Arizona, and I'm going to be probably trying to see as many as I can in Florida too, but probably miss a couple. There are 30. I know there are 45 days, but I'm at the Yankees and the Mets a lot, so I might miss one or two here or there.
Yeah. What have you been your early takeaways so far from both of those camps?
Well, I mean, the Mets are losing Frankie Montas for at least 3 months. That's a big blow for them. That was the question going in. Do they have enough starters? They actually may have the quantity. Do they have the quality? I think that's a question at this moment for the Mets. Other than that, I mean, their lineup is great. I don't know if it's the best lineup in baseball, as their catcher, Francisco Alvarez, said, but should be in the top 5 at least. And being conservative there, I think it's among the top 5. And in the Yankee camp, I mean, they're pretty healthy. Other than Giancarlo Stanton, that's a question right now. And if he's not ready to go, that will be a big blow for them. But their pitching is really good between Fried and Cole at the top. I mean, you've got Marcus Stroman, who wants to be a starter, may end up being a starter. We shall see. But they've got 5 really good ones, so he shouldn't be too insulted if he isn't one of the top 5.
Yeah, and you mentioned those questions with the Mets' rotation. Like, there's a guy and Jose Quintana that's continuing to linger out there. Do you think they could end up adding another starting pitcher, or do you think they're going to kind of stand pat?
I think they don't like the metrics with Quintana for some reason. I'm not sure why. I had a 3.11 ERA in the second half. That's pretty good metric for me. I would take Jose Quintana. He was really good. He was liked. But it's all about the numbers these days and all about the velocity, and he does not have big velocity. So, I mean, he's clearly, in my mind, the best starter out there. There's some other viable starters that are still out there, Gibson, Corbin, Lynn. But, I mean, Quintana is clearly the best one. He's not that old, at least not by my standard. I think he's 35. He's not that old. Maybe he's 36. I'm surprised it's taken him this long to find a job anywhere, but the Mets to me are the fit because they need a starter now.
Yeah, I've been clamoring for the Brewers to go out and get him too, because he's dominated the Brewers in recent years, especially when he was with the Cubs. And I think that makes a ton of sense for them. But going to the Yankees now, it seems like everybody and their mothers is wanting them to go out and get infield help. And everyone's mentioning Arenado. I know that's not a thing, but do you think they can end up adding an infielder between now and opening day?
Yeah, I don't see it. The Yankees, I don't think they're adding anybody. I'm told they have no money. Not seeing it. I didn't even get the Red Sox for Arenado. I didn't get that at all because they were clearly going to have a problem with Devers. If you've got a problem now with Bregman, who's willing to play second, what would the problem be like with Arenado, who's, clearly a third baseman? I think, from my perspective, I think it's fairly clear that Boston wants to move Devers, but they probably need to make that clear to him now. Move him to DH or some other spot because he doesn't seem to have that message, and they need to clear that up. They got 6 weeks to do it. They got a great manager. He should be able to do it, but he needs to know that if they want Bregman to be the third baseman, they better tell him. Now, I guess some of that's dependent on whether one of the kids who is in camp right now can make the team as a second baseman. But, I mean, that kind of tells you. I mean, if you're Devers, it's kind of telling you they want to move on from you as the third baseman.
No, for sure. And going with Bregman there, were you surprised that they ended up going to Boston? Because I know there was a bunch of other teams like the Tigers, the Cubs, and some of these other teams that were mentioned there.
Not shocked. I mean, it was clearly at the end, it seemed like Houston was out of it for whatever reason. He just decided he wanted to move on, I guess, at some point. They obviously traded Tucker. They traded Presley. They've taken a little bit of a step back. I still think they're going to be pretty good, but it seemed clear that he wanted to move on. So I thought it was kind of between the Cubs, the Tigers, and the Red Sox. And I think, if the Cubs had come through with a good offer, I think they had a good chance, but they didn't come close. The Tigers came pretty close. I think they came. Bregman did make a counteroffer to the Tigers, and I think it was $2 million a year more. If they had gone to, let's say, 183 instead of 171, he would have gone there. I get it from their perspective. They're looking at it now that he's got a 3-year deal, 120 deferred, so really around 90 or close to 90. He left money on the table, guaranteed money. He's willing to bet on himself, and I just think he probably preferred Boston over Detroit, but he was willing to go at some price to Detroit.
Yeah, and they were very seriously involved there. And going to another big free agent, Juan Soto. Well, you and I were together when all that stuff was going on, and it was pure chaos. I know your phone ended up like malfunctioning or not working at one point during that entire thing. But what's it like seeing Soto there with the Mets? Is it just surreal? I mean, he's now with the Mets making
a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different. I got a new phone now, so my phone will be working better. I blame that old hotel, though, too. Where the Anatole, I mean, come on, let's go. That place was outdated when we were there in 2000. I mean, this was probably before you were born, but it was outdated then. So I don't know why we went back. Anyway, it was busy. Soto, I think, he wanted to go to the Mets. I think Aaron Judge said it correctly. I don't think it's about the money when you're talking 765 versus 760. There really isn't that much difference there. And of course, the Yankees would have gone at 765 had he said, "I'll come, just go up to 765, just match the Mets." Well, are they really going to draw the line there? I know they drew the line at the luxury suite, but I don't think they would have drawn the line at an extra $5 million, which isn't even 1%. So he clearly, for whatever reason, had meetings with all the teams. He liked the Mets. His family liked the Mets. They were giving him that suite. He just felt comfortable over there. So I think that's what it was about.
Yeah, and looking ahead to next offseason, we obviously Soto was the big fish this offseason. And then you had Ohtani last offseason, but next offseason, all eyes are going to be on Vlad Jr. And I saw your tweet the other day after those two sides did not agree to terms on a long-term extension. This is just my own thinking. But in my opinion, there was absolutely no chance he was doing a deal before free agency. That never made sense to me. Maybe you think differently.
You never know. I mean, normally a superstar doesn't do a deal with a year to go before free agency. And it doesn't mean he's not going back to Toronto. We saw Judge go back to the Yankees. We saw Alonso go back to the Mets. So I'm not ruling out Toronto. And, I think it was a long shot probably. I think that's fair. But guys have done it with a year to go. Mookie Betts, he hadn't even played for the Dodgers. Maybe, he loved LA. A lot of people do. Randy Newman, I love it. A lot of people love LA, and maybe he just loved it. And certainly looks like the right move that he did take that deal, except it was a favorable deal from the organization standpoint, as most of the Dodger deals seem to be. But I'm sure he's happy to be in LA to win 2 more championships and have the best team again this year. So I think it worked out well for Mookie Betts.
Yeah, and then what teams do you think could end up being in on Vlad Jr., like the early teams to look for?
Well, the rumor is that he likes the Red Sox. I don't know how much validity there is to that. I don't know how close he is to Devers. Devers may be saying negative things to him now, and I'm not sure there really is anything negative. He's just upset that he doesn't want to move off of third base, but that's been the rumor. I mean, certainly the Mets with Alonso having the opt-out, that's a possible opening. They obviously have the money. The Yankees, they've got Goldschmidt on a 1-year deal. It's got to be a big market team, obviously. He's not Soto. He's not getting $765 million, but he's going to expect over $500 million. So, how many teams can afford that? It is a limited number of teams that can afford it and are willing to go there. It's, less than a third of the teams, certainly, and maybe it's a handful. There were, 5 or 6 teams in on Soto and even more money. But, at least we can eliminate some teams, because there's certain teams that are not going to spend $500 million for a player, no matter how good a player it is.
Yeah, I think we can rule out probably the A's or the Rockies in those sweepstakes.
Probably.
Sure.
Well, the A's surprised us a little bit with the Severino deal, but yeah, $500 million, I don't see it. Maybe once they move to Las Vegas and they get the gambling money in there, maybe then they could do something like that.
No, for sure. And to circle back to New York, because as you mentioned, you're there a lot for spring training. A lot of the big rumors so far this offseason, especially even at spring training now, have been with Marcus Stroman. I know the Yankees they've been looking to move him and shed that salary. Do you think that's actually possible, or would they have to eat some of that deal to do so?
Oh yeah, they've been willing to eat some of it. Certainly, they could use money on an infielder if they like, but I don't think it's so terrible to have him in reserve. He's been a pretty good pitcher for at least the first half the last 2 years, so he can throw 20 good starts at least. He's ready to go now. He's going to throw today 1 inning. I don't know if I'd be so anxious to move him, but particularly if you have to pay. Out of the 18 million, you have to pay 12 million of it or something. I don't know, because at this point, right, you could sign Quintana probably for 5 or 6 million, right? So, is someone really going to take Stroman and expect to pay anything close to that 18 million? I don't see that at this point. So I think it's difficult. I don't know that what he said when he got here is going to make it even more difficult, but I just think teams love velocity. And obviously, he's a guy who could pitch in the playoffs for some teams, but not the Yankees. And it was curious that they went back and signed him after they'd almost been in a kind of a mini feud with him for a little while. He wanted to be a Yankee forever, and they came out publicly, or it came out publicly somehow, that they didn't think he was good enough to pitch for them because he wasn't going to be able to pitch in the playoffs. And as it turned out, he didn't pitch in the playoffs this year. But they made up. Maybe they shouldn't have made up, but maybe he should be somewhere else, because he is good enough to be a starter somewhere. But with the Yankees, he is clearly the number 6 starter at this point.
Yeah, because I remember it was like 72 hours before he ended up signing there. I asked somebody who was pretty much in the know there if there was any chance that Stroman would go to the Yankees, and his reply was no chance. And all of a sudden, 72 hours later, it ended up happening. Right. They mended those bridges, and it's been a disaster ever since. And I would much rather have Quintana for 7 to 8 million rather than Stroman at that salary. But as you said, he's a very effective pitcher, and they shouldn't just shed him just to shed him by any means. Now it's like shifting gears here to a team that just spent just an astronomical amount of money this offseason, and even previous offseasons, the Dodgers. What do you think of their spending? Are you a fan of it or not a fan?
Sure. Any team that tries, I give them credit. Mark Walter, the owner, fantastic job. They've gotten great deals with superstars. The Ohtani deal is like the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, they pull in a lot of money on him. They're making a profit. He's the only player they actually make a profit on the player. So that was a great deal, and it all deferred. I'm 97% deferred. I'm basically all deferred. Mookie Betts, that was a great deal. Freddie Freeman was a great deal. Now this offseason, their team looks ridiculous. On paper, they look like the best team. I'm not sure I've seen a team that looks better on paper. To add to what they had, Snell and Sasaki, and to add Tanner Scott, and to add Kirby Yates. Their pitching was already good. I know they managed to do it last year in the World Series with Jack Flaherty on his last legs, and Yamamoto with the question about the shoulder. Turned out to be not much of a question. He was fantastic. And a bunch of bullpen games, and they made it that way, right? And now you've got Kershaw back. You've got Yamamoto healthy, and you've brought in guys, Snell, Sasaki. The team is ridiculous. The rotation is the best. The bullpen is the best. It was the best in October. They've added to it now. I don't know who's the 5th inning guy or the 6th inning guy. Could it be Yates or Trinan? These guys are closers. They got 3 closers. They got 3 or 4 aces at least. I've never seen a team this good. I really haven't.
No, it kind of looks like an all-star team to me. I don't know if you think the same thing, but it's just, you look at it from top to bottom, it's loaded. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And their offense is arguably the best. I know Francisco Alvarez thinks the Mets have the best offense, but you got Freeman, Betts, Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith, Kike Hernandez now back too. It's pretty good. I think it's one of those 2 teams is the best offense, but let's say their offense is the second best. They have the best rotation. There's no argument there. And they have the best bullpen. I don't see an argument there either. So they are the heaviest favorite I can ever recall. Yeah,
and plus they have a great manager, Dave Roberts. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they haven't extended him yet, but you have to think that
there's still time, but not. And they're starting earlier than most teams, being out of Japan, so there isn't that much time. But Aaron Boone got done. You'd like to think that they wouldn't try to squeeze Dave Roberts. The guy has won 2 World Series. Arguably, he probably should have won in 2017. That would be 3 World Series. I saw somebody rank him as the 8th best manager. I mean, come on. I mean, he's won the vast majority of winner-take-all games. His winning percentage is the best all time, and 2 World Series. There are guys in the Hall of Fame with 1 World Series, right? Earl Weaver's in the Hall of Fame. Jim Leland's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not taking anything away from them, but he's now got 2 World Series. Probably win again this year. Who knows where it stops? But yeah, his contract is up after this year, and they need to really pay him. They're willing. I mean, they've gotten great deals because people want to be around the team, and probably he wants to manage the team, and that probably factors into it. Like if he doesn't take it, he'll get a job, but it's not with a team that's got Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and all those great pitchers. So I guess they think he should take a discount because of that. But to me, he's an accomplished, exceptional manager, and he should get the highest payment of any manager, and that's what is that council's $8 million, right? Guy used to cover gets $8 million. No, I mean, exactly. Shouldn't he get $8 million? He's got 2 World Series titles at this point. Come on.
Yeah, he should be. I think he should even get more than $10 million a year. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, I'm being real. You're right. You're right. He should. But I'm just knowing by the history of this and the fact that they were tight last time, and he wasn't making. I think he was making 3 something, and then maybe at the end he makes 4. But they've squeezed him, and I'm anticipating they'll do it again. But he should be the highest paid manager. We do agree on that.
Yeah, I wonder if they defer any of that contract too. But I guess we'll see. But a couple more questions because I know you're a busy guy. I'm sure the Dodgers are going to be one of your offseason winners. But I'm curious if you have any other offseason winners.
Among teams, among players, I think we know who the winners are. Among teams, I think ultimately, the Red Sox did well once they got Bregman, Buehler on a 1-year deal, Crochet deal, and I think the White Sox did well with that trade, getting Teal, Montgomery, and 2 others. So I think they did well, but I think Boston is a winner. Toronto, people are going to remember that they didn't get Guerrero done. They didn't get Soto done, which probably isn't a surprise, but they did get Jimenez, they got Hoffman, they got Scherzer, they got Santander. So, looking at it objectively, they're probably a winner as well. The Cubs might be a winner, even though they didn't do as much as I think they should do. They got Tucker, and the rest of the teams in that division didn't do that much. Pittsburgh's doing a little stuff at the end here, but, Milwaukee, your old team, they didn't do much. Of course, they win no matter what, but they didn't do much. So, if we're talking off-season winners, I would put the Cubs in that category. And the Diamondbacks. Look, they got Burns on a reasonable deal, considering. But I'm sure he's thrilled that he's in Arizona, where he's got a young family. He just wanted to be spring training in Arizona. Now he's there all the time. So it worked out nicely for him, but it worked out for the Diamondbacks as well.
No, for sure. And I'll mention one of my offseason losers here. I'll put the Brewers, my old team, in there because they have a playoff caliber roster, and they lost Adames and they lost Devin Williams, and they've their biggest offseason acquisition has been Tyler Alexander, which that shouldn't be possible.
What about Margot? Margot is in the clubhouse, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a major or minor league deal. That would be their biggest move of the offseason.
It's a bigger name, but right. In terms of the money, maybe I don't know. We don't know. Yeah, they've made no moves up to speak of. No,
and then you got the Cardinals with Arenado, so that's not very
well. Good. They haven't done anything either, right? Yeah, they've been taking. Their whole winter has been spent trying to trade Arenado. It's not good. It's not good. It's not working out well and it's a great baseball town. They've been a winner perennially. It's a real shame. They have good young players, but I don't see why they have to pair back to this extent. Seems like a bit extreme to me, but.
No, you and me both. And I got to ask, last question here for you, John. I'm putting you on the spot very early. Do you have an early World Series pick?
Well, you got to go with the Dodgers, right? I pick the Dodgers every year. I don't know if anybody realizes that. Nobody pays attention to what anybody picks. But I've been picking them for like 23 years in a row. So am I going to go away from them now? I don't think so. And I did get it right twice. So, I'm not that's a good record, 2 out of 23. But, you got to think that the Dodgers are the big favorite to win the World Series. In the American League, I think the East improved. That's the one division that improved in the American League. Otherwise, it was a National League offseason. So I'm going to say Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles. I could see any of them playing the Dodgers.
No, I think you and I are very aligned on that. I think your World Series record is better than mine. So congratulations
Well,
to you on that.
I picked the Dodgers every year. I can't really take any credit. Now they haven't had teams like this every year, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I just have a feeling it's going to be the Dodgers, and of course I'm right 2 out of 23 times, so it's not that great a feeling.
Yeah, I think you might be right 3 out of 24 by the end of the year. I gotta
Feels
go.
like it. Feels like it. I mean, that team is ridiculous. I mean, who's their fifth and sixth starter? Is it Sasaki, Glasnow, Kershaw? These are aces. These are still ace pitchers. Kershaw is the best pitcher all time by ERA plus at 156. And he still pitched it very effectively in the innings that he did pitch last year. Glasnow is an incredible talent. Now they've got to limit his innings. Obviously, he cannot throw a lot of innings, but he is an amazing talent. And you've got 7 or 8 very talented starters. You can limit innings, and that's their strategy, and that has worked beautifully.
No, that it has. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. But John, I want to just say thank you again for joining us today. John is one of the best insiders in baseball, not to mention like one of the best people in baseball just in life.
That's nice. That's
been
nice.
very
You're
big
the
for
best,
me.
Robert.
No, that's you. I appreciate you. I'm sure you'll be back here again. Go enjoy spring training, John. Try not to be too busy, even though I know that's easier said than done. And thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Robert. Great to be here.
Thank you again to Jon Heyman for joining us today. He's incredible. Love John with all my heart. But now it's time for me to do a solo pod here because I'm by myself. Adam is not here and John is no longer here. But there's a few things that I wanted to talk about today, specifically starting with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who ended up agreeing to terms last night with Andrew Heaney, a left-handed starting pitcher. He's been a very dependable number 4 or 5 starter with the Texas Rangers. He had a career low walk percentage last year. He was one of the top options remaining on the free agent market, and he should provide depth and stability in that rotation, which is something that the Pirates were looking for. I don't necessarily know what else the Pirates have in store this offseason. I know they've been typically a lower spending team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they continue to lurk around the free agent market. But I would imagine their heavy lifting is pretty much over at this point. But one starter that they were indeed in on was Jose Quintana. And they ended up offering Quintana before signing Heaney a larger guarantee. How much more that guarantee was, I'm not exactly sure. I don't believe it was anything too much more significant than what Heaney ended up getting. But the Pirates wanted a reunion with Quintana. They valued what he brought on the mound, but also the leadership that he ended up providing in that clubhouse and in the dugout as well. When he was previously in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, they seriously explored that. They made him a couple of offers, but ultimately did not end up getting a deal done. And once it was clear that Quintana wanted to go elsewhere, they prioritized Heaney. They got that deal done, and now they brought Heaney over to Pittsburgh. So good move by the Pirates. They signed Heaney for about $5.25 million, and there's incentives in there that can bring the deal to around $6 million or so, give or take. Speaking of other pitching moves that ended up getting done, the Toronto Blue Jays ended up re-signing Ryan Yarbrough to a minor league contract. And I thought that was a really savvy move by that entire front office there. They were looking at a left-handed pitcher all offseason. Among the players that they were also in on included Danny Coulomb. But Coulomb ended up signing with the Minnesota Twins. And Yarbrough was a player that they ended up acquiring last year in exchange for Kevin Kiermaier. And he was a very dependable option. Hi, Cooper. They wanted to bring him back, and getting him on a minor league contract, and especially for as cheap as that, is a really strong move by that entire front office. He, to my knowledge, has every opportunity to make the major league roster coming out of camp. And as one person told me, it would require him to fall flat on his face to not make the major league roster. So I would fully expect Yarbrough to make the major league roster come opening day. And then the last pitching move that ended up being made was the Chicago White Sox bringing back Mike Clevinger. I reported that late last night. It was funny because I went to bed early last night because my batteries were pretty much drained. And I woke up and I had a couple texts about Clevinger going to the White Sox. And man, my sourcing was good enough that I didn't need to send any more texts. So I ended up doing so. And Clevinger provides depth to that organization. They wanted some pitching depth. This is his third stint with the White Sox. He's coming off an injury from last season. So it remains to be seen exactly what he's going to provide. But as far as a veteran arm. He's going to be cheap. He provides a veteran in that locker room. Again, we don't know exactly what he's going to provide, but I know it's not the most popular signing by any means on Twitter, but he provides arms and depth. So that was that thinking behind that move for the Chicago White Sox. And then the big news that ended up breaking this morning, and this was something that absolutely plugged up my Twitter mentions. I think it got like 7.1 or 7.2 million impressions on Twitter, which it's more than my average tweet. And I ended up getting some pretty nasty messages, both in the replies, the direct messages. I even had people like coming at me on Instagram, like, what the heck is that about? But anyways, the New York Yankees ended up getting rid of their facial hair policy. So now they're allowing players to have facial hair, and it requires them to be well groomed. What exactly that means, I think that's going to be up for interpretation. But it's about damn time they ended up doing that, because that was easily the worst rule in baseball. Like the fact that that was still a rule for the Yankees, it was long overdue. It was outdated. It was stupid. It was just, I wonder if it ended up preventing players from going over to New York as free agents, because I think that's something that organizations strongly considered. And especially if you have to compete with teams like the Dodgers or the Red Sox or any of these other like contending teams in baseball, you want to have as much or as many competitive advantages as you possibly can. And in not having and in having that policy, that was truly like a competitive disadvantage. So it's about damn time they ended up doing that. They got that taken care of. I feel bad for a guy like Devin Williams, because he was acquired from the Milwaukee Brewers in a blockbuster trade. And I was around Williams for the majority of his career. And he's always had a beard. And that was his look. And then all of a sudden he goes to New York and he's clean shaven. And now they end up making this policy change. So at least he'll get the beard back. But the fact he had to shave that, not exactly the greatest thing in the entire world. But there's still plenty of other stuff to talk about here. Another one that I ended up reporting, it was actually a reunion of sorts, was Shelby Miller going back to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Shelby Miller going back was something that has been in the cards all offseason. I'm kind of surprised he did not get a major league contract, but that's essentially where his career ended up starting. And now he's going back, provides depth. He should be a cheaper option. So I think that was a very savvy move by that front office, a low risk, potential high reward kind of a deal there for the Diamondbacks. And the last little newsy item that ended up happening, there's been some managerial extensions lately, and we saw one with Mark Kotsay with the A's, and that was actually that was a well-earned extension. Like you wouldn't usually think that with the Oakland A's here, but with the Sacramento A's at this point. That's going to take some time getting used to. But he has been handed very little with that franchise, and he's done a very nice job. He has he's maximized that talent to about as well as about any manager possibly could. And the fact that he ended up getting a multi-year extension there with the A's, that was very well deserved. And now the one that just got done was Aaron Boone with the New York Yankees. And Boone is one of the best and most respected managers in baseball. He is highly regarded for the job that he has done managing that clubhouse and managing the media, which is brutal in New York. That's about as tough of a media market as there is. Maybe with Philadelphia being among the other tougher options, there are tougher places to work in. So the fact that they ended up getting that extension done was a very good move there by that front office and by that organization. And as John alluded to when he was on the show, the next one that's going to end up getting done is the Los Angeles Dodgers with Dave Roberts. And I fully anticipate that getting done. As I said, I think he deserves even $10 million a year, especially when you see like the NFL salaries going way up. We're seeing rookie managers or rookie coaches like Ben Johnson getting 13, 14-ish, I think, million a year. I want to say that's right, but I could be wrong. But Roberts has won two World Series. He deserves it. So I would fully anticipate that getting done. It's just taking longer than I think everyone, especially a guy like Dave Roberts, would prefer. So I think that's one to watch as the season gets closer and spring training wears on. But that should wrap up what I have in my notebook. There's still going to be plenty to talk about because we have plenty of other free agents, especially on the pitching side. I'm pretty plugged in with a lot of the stuff going on the remaining guys in the free agent market. So I'm excited to be talking about that and bringing that to you on the next show and shows after that. I know we're going to be back here on Monday, regular scheduled programming. I will not be here by myself. We will have Adam Weinrib here with me. And we also, our prospect show with Eric Cole and Adam will start next Tuesday at 12 Eastern time. It's a show I'm very excited about. We always love prospect talk. And Eric is as plugged in on the prospect front as anybody, so he should provide great insight. Really excited for that. But I appreciate everyone who tuned in for the brief solo pod from me and also for the interview with Jon Heyman. Jon is a dear friend and a dear mentor of mine. My career is not possible without him, so I appreciate him for joining us today. Appreciate everyone who watched. Joanne, our lovely producer, who is helping me with this show right now. I appreciate you, and I'll see everyone back here on Monday.